We're going to move on, though, into our next topic, and we're talking about we dem boys again. We're talking about the Cowboys. And
America's team.
The reason why we're talking about the Cowboys is there have been some tweets, there have been some Cowboy fans that during the Sunday night game were, why is Dak still in? Tony Romo should be still in. My favorite one was the Dak experiment is over. We need someone with experience. And, like, I'm sitting there going, you guys are the same fucking people that when you guys were winning were, Dak's on top of the world. We're going to beat anybody. The Dak experiment.
Those might not be the same people, though.
But it's one of those things where after you guys lose a game, you lose to a team twice, which, by the way, the Cowboys are now, they're not 11-2. They're 11 in Giants because the Giants beat them both games.
That was a bad joke.
I'm just going to throw the question over at you, Sean. Should the Cowboys think about starting Tony Romo?
Should they think about it? Yes. I think they should think about it. Should they? No way. And I mean, I think you should think about it in the fact that you should think about the circumstances where he could start, and that's when the should they come in. So should you? No. Should you think about it? Of course. You should always have a backup plan. But really with that, they should not unless certain circumstances do arise. Those circumstances are obviously another rough performance in the next two games because you need to win the next two games because if the Giants win two and you lose two, you're not Giants
now have the tiebreaker.
They have the division in their hands. So if you go 1-2 and the Giants go 2-1, then you are now a wild card team. So I think if he has another rough performance where he's throwing 2 interceptions and not completing a high percentage of his passes, he's not able to throw the ball downfield except to a wide open Terrence Williams. I think that is the real part of when you start to kind of push towards that direction, and obviously injury. If Dak goes down, then that makes it way easier. But I think that you cannot destroy the confidence that Dak has built up and that this team has at 11-2. You lose twice to the Giants, who are a good defense, who kind of have the mold to beat the Cowboys, where they're able to rush 4, they're able to drop 7 back, they're also able to bring pressure but still have good coverage. I mean, they have good coverage cornerbacks there, and plus they're able to at least short coverage corners. But with this Giants team, they have the mold to beat the Cowboys, and I think that you can't destroy Dak's confidence because this kid is playing fantastic for a rookie, and he's not taking that many shots. I mean, he's not even, he has the fourth most yards per attempt, but he also has the 21st or he's 22nd in attempts and completions, and also I think it's like 8 yards per attempt. So most of those are slant routes. Most of those, he's not going deep consistently. He's throwing a lot of intermediate routes to like 10 to 15 yards. You don't see him taking a lot of chances downfield. So that's why his interceptions are so low. But still, this team is 11-2, and your team might be better with Tony Romo, but Dak's the future quarterback for the Cowboys, and you can't destroy his confidence.
I want to throw this out there, and this doesn't have to go record-wise. This next game is going to be like, for right now, the answer to the question, do you think about starting Tony Romo? I'm with you. The thought is in my head. But am I pulling the trigger on saying, yes, you need to start him? Not so fast. And the reason why I say that is this next game is the game where if you lose this game coming up to the Bucs, or Dak looks horrible, like
I think
he doesn't look as good as he did against the Giants, then I say, fuck it, out the door, Romo starting the rest of the year.
Even if you lose, but Dak looks good, there's no way you pull him. If you lose because of Dak, and Dak goes 17 of 37 and throws 2 interceptions and can't move the ball down the field, then you pull him.
Here's the thing I want to bring up. And there have been games this year, like early on, we're like, oh, well, the Bengals could be a tough game. The Bengals aren't a good team this year. We thought, oh, well, in Green Bay, that could be a tough game. The Green Bay Packers weren't a tough team at that time. If you look at every single team that he has played, Pittsburgh's the only one out of the teams I'm going to say where just look at the defenses that he's played.
Baltimore.
How many elite defenses has he played this year? 2. And he played one of them twice.
Baltimore or Minnesota? What are you talking about?
I'm saying
Minnesota's an aligned defense. Yeah, I'm saying the Giants.
I'm saying the Giants and Minnesota are the only two elite defenses. See, but the thing with Baltimore is their defense is good, but their defense is not elite to me.
They are a top 5 defense in the league.
But not elite.
That is elite. What is elite for you?
I don't think the Baltimore Ravens are an elite defense this year.
Why?
Because to me, you look at them and it's not like you look at the Giants, you look at the Vikings, they don't let their opponents score. The Baltimore Ravens are one of those teams where, yes, the defense is better than the offense, but you're giving up 28 points to the Raiders. You're giving up 27. You lost to the Jets and you gave up 24 to the Jets.
Baltimore is the fourth team in points given up per game. 18 points per game. That's before Dallas.
This is my point.
And Denver.
This is my point.
And Kansas City.
To me, the two best defenses that Dak has played, Giants, Vikings. Those are the only two teams that have held him to his lowest QBR. Anything under 60 have been those teams. The Giants at 60.2 game one, and then 14.8 this past Sunday night, and the Vikings at 57.2 on Thursday night 2 weeks ago. Every other game, Dak has had his way with this team. The thing that I'm looking at coming into this game against the Buccaneers, who's playing really good for the Buccaneers right now? What unit is playing really good and is coming off of a hot game?
Real quick, the Ravens are the second best defense that he faced. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm getting off of it, but I'm just saying the Ravens are the second best defensive. I don't know what you're smoking. What you're saying is the Bucs defense has been fantastic.
Yeah, the Bucs defense is fantastic. Look at the last two games. Giant fantastic defense. Vikings fantastic defense. Gave Dak problems. Held him to his two lowest QBRs that we have seen this season. We look at the Bucs. Yeah, they only scored 16 points total against the Saint team, which that's going to be the Bucs' problem is can Jameis Winston get in the end zone and get this team some points? But this was a team that held Drew Brees to his lowest QBR this season of 28.7. And Drew Brees has also been on a bit of a slide. He also had the 30.6 QBR against the Lions. So his last 2 weeks have really been his lowest QBRs of the year. I think this could be a game where the Cowboys, I know they're playing at home, and that's going to help. I know the Vikings and Giants these past 2 weeks have been on the road, so it'll be nice to come back home. I know that the offensive line for the Cowboys is different than the Saints, but this could be a game against the Buccaneers where Dak doesn't look good. And if he doesn't look good, then you start Tony Romo. See, that's what I'm saying.
The reason why he's been struggling is because of pressure. The Vikings were able to get to him 3 times. The Giants were able to get to him 3 times. He was constantly pressured in both of those games. And the thing that the Bucs do bring is they are 12th, I believe, in the NFL in sacks. So what the Cowboys need to do is better protect Dak Prescott. I think that looking at Dak, it's not really Dak's. See, I think people put too much pressure on Dak, saying if they lose, it's Dak's fault. If they lose, it's Dak's fault. I think that one thing that people have to realize is that he's going to go up against tough defenses. He's going to have to make plays, but he's been able to win games consistently for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that you go out and look at his performances against Pittsburgh. He was able to lead the Cowboys down the field there. Baltimore, it says 10 points on the box score, but looking at that game, that fourth quarter was won by Dak. I mean, you look at these games, Washington too, Dak was able to keep Dallas afloat. Minnesota, he even drove the Cowboys down the field to give them the lead there. So I look at the team, I look at Dallas here, and I think there's too much pressure put on Dak and too much emphasis put on Dak. Now, if he starts to struggle horrifically, and I'm saying, he's not pressured and he starts throwing bad mistakes, he starts making bad decisions, his confidence is shaken, then you pull him. But the way he's playing and the way he's played outside of this Giants games, and really the last Giants game, because the first one he wasn't even bad in. If you look at the second Giants game, people put too much pressure and focus on that. I think that you cannot shake his confidence, because if you're sold on him being your future quarterback, you can't shake his confidence.
Here's another thing I'm going to point out, and this goes more towards why this upcoming week against the Bucs is such an important game. Let's play the what-if game. Let's say the Bucs do win.
Oh, it's an important game.
Let's just say the Bucs win. That means you'd fall to 11-2. If Detroit
11-3.
11-3, pardon me. if the Detroit Lions win this week, if they win their game against the Giants, they're going on the road. That's a tough game that they're going to have to win. If they win that game, that means you guys are playing the next week for Week 16 at home in Dallas. And guess what? That would mean if Detroit beats you in that game and you drop a fourth straight game, guess who has the first place seed? Guess who would have the first place seed?
Who?
The Detroit Lions. Because right now Detroit is 2 games behind Dallas.
Dallas
at
and Detroit
9 and
also
4.
play as well, though.
That's what I'm saying. So
you're saying if they lose twice.
If they lose
Gotcha.
to the Bucks,
Sorry.
and then Detroit wins, there's only one game. Then that next game, you're playing Detroit. You lose that game. That's why I'm thinking if you lose to the Bucks, Tony Romo's in, because then I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going with experience.
Lose no matter
we've
what?
Dropped 3. Lose no matter what.
Really? So if Dak Prescott goes down the field, has a QBR of 122 and throws for 3 touchdowns.
Unless he has like a 3-touchdown game and it's like just a complete like offensive slugfest where it's like 42-38, which I don't see happening because Jameis Winston's not going to put 42 points up on the board. I just think that if the Cowboys are going to lose this game, that Buck defense is going to get to Dak Prescott to where if he does have a good game where, like you're saying, he has a 120 QBR or a 100 QBR, they're going to win. They're going to win that game then.
See, I think that I don't think anyone's going to disagree that Tony Romo is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Right now, Tony Romo is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. No one's going to argue that. But one thing with Tony is he hasn't played at all this season. He's been injured, he's been hurt, and he hasn't been in the game speed since he got hurt in the preseason. Now, one thing with Tony, he's a better quarterback. He's able to take more chances, but Dak has been winning games, and Dak has won more games since Tony Romo. Since Tony Romo in a long time. Tony Romo hasn't had the best record-wise, and this is a better team than Tony's ever had. I personally, but the last time he had 11 wins was 2009. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the thing with teams like this is that. Oh, I'm sorry, they had 12 wins in 2014. But if Dak wins another game, then he's gonna finally tie Tony's high. But the thing with this is that people put too much pressure on Dak. They put too much focus on these teams. And I think that you can't shake his confidence that much, because I think looking at Dak's performances so far, when he goes up against tough defenses, he's going to struggle because he's a rookie. I mean, the fact that they are winning 11 games, though, the way that they came into the season, I think it's a win for the Cowboys. And I think that just because people are saying Tony Romo should be starting, Tony Romo is going to lead them to the playoffs, Dak will be leading to the playoffs for the future of your team, and you need to keep that mind growing instead of saying, oh, you had a bad performance, you're done. Because then if Tony gets hurt against the Lions and he has to come back in, he's like, oh, well, I wasn't good enough to be the quarterback then, and I don't know if I can continue this, and I don't know if I can win this for my team.
The one thing that I'm going to say about that is I don't think Dak is that finicky in the confidence standpoint.
He's still a rookie, though.
If they lose against the Bucks and the Cowboys went, hey, we're going to start Tony, I think Dak would be the same kind of guy Tony was, where it's like, okay, I understand, and then he's just going to be ready. But to me, to answer this question, yes, you should think about start. I think we're both in agreement. If you think to start now, but if you lose the Buck game, then you actually seriously start making a move.
What I'm saying is you should always be thinking about it, but you shouldn't actually do it until Dak looks awful out there. And I'm saying like a horrific performance. And if he's really making your team progress, like if he's like, if it's
how would you describe the performance on Sunday night?
Say it's it's a close battle, and the way that it's been close is because Cowboys have been getting turnovers, but then Dak keeps turning the ball over. Dak keeps throwing bad mistakes. Dak isn't able to move the ball down the field. That's what I'm saying. If he's hindering this offense?
Last question I'll ask you, because we do have to move on.
Yeah.
Is what if they have he has a similar performance that he had last Sunday? The only difference is Jameis Winston puts more points up.
One more game. You give him the Lions game.
You give him the Lions game.
If you
lose that one, you're losing home field. You're actually putting that home field on him if the Lions would have to also beat the Giants.
See, but the fact if you say, all right, we gave you the job in week 9 or week 8 or week 10, whatever they gave him the job when Tony was cleared back. We gave you the job, and just because you've had 2 bad performances, just because you had 2 straight performances, then you're done. You're done. You lost the first game against the Giants, even though it was Terrence Williams' fault. You lost the first game against the Giants, and the second one, you finally had a bad game.
I was focusing on the last 2.
He had one bad game. I mean, the Minnesota game wasn't even bad. He didn't have a bad game against Minnesota.
The Minnesota game was him going up against a tough defense, and let's be honest, if the Vikings actually had an offense, they would have won that game.
Okay, but
I know they didn't, but I'm just saying if the Vikings actually had an offense, that could have been a loss as well.
The fact that the Giants are 11-2 is something ridiculous. I mean, the fact that you have a guy like Zeke who is on pace for the 5th most carries in rookie history, I just think that the Cowboys need to relax, and Cowboys fans need to relax. I understand that you want home field advantage. I understand that you want that, but it's still in grasp. Just because you lose 2 games to the Giants doesn't knock you out.
And Cowboy fans, I'll make you feel happy before we end this. No matter what happens in that Lion, of course you have to win, but no matter what happens in that Giant Lions game, you are either going to lock up a first-round bye, because if the Giants win, the Lions have no way of catching you. So you'll have to win the division still, but you'll lock up basically the playoffs that you already have. But if the Giants lose, boom, you get the division. So basically, no matter what, you get something to get beneficial out of that. But this is where we want you guys to tell us down below what you guys think. Would you think of starting Romo, and would you actually start Romo, let's say for that Lions game, if they lose?
Final thoughts, too. Cowboys have been equally as good on the road and home. I mean, it's not like there's a huge drastic difference whether this team's playing on the road or home.